listening to NacChat with Amy Mahaffey, straight from the city of Nacogdoches, where we chat all things Nac. We make any topic fun, and I'll take you behind the scenes of the oldest town in Texas.
Welcome back to NacChat. This is episode 17, and I am so very, very excited to host the wonderful and fabulous Crystal Hicks from the Judy B. McDonald Public Library. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I am so excited to do this because you're going to talk to us today about an awesome project that you brought to us to brainstorm months ago. And so I've been excited to see it all come to life. So tell everybody at home what you've been working on.
It's been a long process, but we're working on One Book, One City. And it's our first year of doing this initiative. And it's a literacy initiative, but it's also focused on community engagement. And so we're taking this project out to a bunch of different organizations and businesses all around town, and we're celebrating a particular book, which is True Grit by Charles Portis. And we're really excited about it. We're looking forward to seeing where this is going to take a whole series of things.
Well, I think it's cool because I get it, and I hope that the people at home understand kind of what you're trying to achieve, because it is neat to have everybody. The goal would be the whole city would read the same book.
Exactly. One of our driving forces behind this is that no two people read the same book. And so we feel like if we do give out copies of this book, make it free, widely available, and then have a series of discussions focused on that book, then we can sort of see each other in a different way and reach out across the community using this pretty simple tool to see how other people react to things and how they interpret things, and use it as a means of getting to understand our neighbors a little bit better.
That is amazing. Well, that's what we try to do in my office every day, is engage people, and this is a really fun way to do that, because you're right, nobody reads the same book the same.
All right.
And exactly. So if I read True Grit and you read True Grit, we're going to take away different things from that, and I think that's neat because we're seeing a lot of changes in our world around us, and this is a great way to maybe start understanding other people's viewpoints at a really innocent level about just talking about the same book.
That's what we want, and we chose a book that we thought would be really versatile and for a wide variety of ages and interest levels. And so it's a Western, but it's an atypical Western.
Okay.
And it focuses on a 14-year-old girl and sort of her adventures as she recounts them from later in life. And so we feel like, and so far we've had some really good feedback about people saying that, this is a good initial book to sort of kick off this project.
I was wondering how you arrived at this book, because I don't know. I've, of course, seen the John Wayne movie, but it's been years, and I don't know a whole lot about the book. And so tell me about the process and kind of how you landed here.
Well, we were inspired by an existing project that's been going on for the last 20 years. It's called The Big Read, and it's developed by the National Endowment for the Arts. And they give out grants every year, and they fund this. And so they have a selection of books that those grantees use for their projects. And True Grit was one of those. And so it already had some reader resources and some extra material that we could make use of.
Gotcha.
And, of course, we would love to get into something like the Big Read, where it is like an annual event that really becomes a citywide month-long event. And they have, been doing this for a long time. And so we sort of modeled ours on what they're doing.
So what kind of response have you gotten? Because I think this is unique and different, and I feel like it, like you said, it appeals to... if I thought, I don't really like a Western, that's not really my thing, it appeals to me on a different level because I'm a girl and I've been a teenage girl, and I understand the romance and the Americana around this story.
Exactly. And so far the response has been amazing.
Good.
I mean, we've been astounded by how excited people are by it, and a lot of people want to participate, and we want to encourage people to participate in any way they want to. It's not something where we're the gatekeepers and we're saying, we want you to, follow this particular program. Whatever you want to do, and you don't even have to invite us from the library.
Yeah.
It could be, we know that individual book clubs are using the book for their, book club reading. And,
Okay.
The things that we're doing, we want to make widely available to anybody in the public, but anybody else who wants to, do this, we're just making it available. And so we have given away nearly 500 copies
Really?
so far. Mm-hmm.
So tell the listeners a little bit about what types of events are surrounding this. You talked about the book clubs, but what if I'm not in a book club? Can I still do this?
Absolutely. We have copies at the library, so if you just want to read it on your own, we're giving them away. And we're also having, the events that we're going to be having will range from book discussions at places like the Boss Light bookstore. And also Nacogdoches Valley Vineyard is having a book discussion.
So I can read and drink wine?
Tasting. Absolutely.
That sounds awesome. And then what if I have a young child and maybe this isn't, what's the age group that can read this book? First of all?
Middle grades probably.
Okay.
And, through high school and adults, yeah.
And then what if I have like a third grader? What can they do?
We have an entire selection of books that are related.
Okay.
And we also have teacher and parent materials to go along with all those books. So if people are curious about how can I get my youngster involved in this, we've got a brochure that lists, I think, 20-something titles for books, at a age range.
Yeah. Okay. So what is your favorite event? That's what I want to know. Of all, I see your big list. If you had to pick only one.
Well, for me personally, I love doing the escape rooms.
Okay.
And so it's something that I do these projects for the library, a lot of times because it's something I'm super interested in.
Right.
And
you
so,
got to.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes my job a lot of fun. And so we're doing escape rooms at the railroad depot. So it's going to be like a train robbery.
Neat. Okay.
And we're doing one for adults and one for teens because we've been doing them for kids and teens, but the adults said, "Hey, I want to try that too.
Let's do it."
Yeah.
Okay, so I can get my youngster involved, and I read a thing the other day. I have a 1-year-old, and we read a lot, and sometimes she doesn't sit, so I follow her around and read, and it makes me laugh because sometimes I have to enjoy the stories as much as she does because I'm the only one paying attention. But I could see where, I want to have a girls' night and get together with my girlfriends and have a wine tasting and talk about the book. But I also want to get, maybe if somebody has, a third grader or a second grader, somebody involved to try to read as a family or do something really unique.
We've also partnered with historic sites.
Okay.
So, of course, with the Railroad Depot, but also we're going to work with them on Pioneer Day, which is the first Saturday in October. And so we're going to make it sort of a true grit Wild West Pioneer Day. And we're really excited about that. That's something that they do every year, or most every year. And it's a great event, and they're going to, let us
embrace
ride their
the
coattails
theme.
there. Yeah.
So how are you going to top it next year? Because this is a good theme for Nacogdoches because of the heritage and the history here, and it fits in so well with what everybody's doing.
Well, we're still going to look to the NEA's list and see, and they've got, a ton of different books, but we would like to try a completely different theme. I mean, we might go science fiction or nonfiction or something like that. So, even if with all of these events that we're doing, we know we're not going to reach everybody, and it's not going to be everybody's taste. And so every year we want to try something fresh and new and maybe reach somebody that wouldn't have picked up that book otherwise. So.
But you want everybody to pick this up. Just this
Absolutely.
once. Even if you're not
Give
into
it a
cowboy
shot.
hats. It's okay, right?
Exactly.
Well, I love it, and I'm so glad that you're doing this and that you've included us and that you're on our podcast because this is really unique and it's special for Nacogdoches to have someone like you and all the people at the library that think outside the box to get people interested in learning, and I think that is so important. So I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Happy to do it.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Guess what time it is?
Time for the rumor mill.
Yay! We are so excited to be back. We took a little break. I don't even know why. Well, I kind of know why.
Yeah, I had to move and...
Yeah, welcome to City Hall again.
Yeah, thanks.
We're glad you're here.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Nedco is now in City Hall, which is exciting. And we had a hurricane. That was unfortunate.
Yeah, we had a hurricane. Luckily, Nacogdoches came out unscathed. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about hurricane stuff.
Yeah,
today.
and some rumors regarding the disasters.
Yes.
Okay. What
So-
comes to mind?
Okay, the first thing was the gas shortage.
Ah.
So, you remember in, what is the name of that Christmas movie?
I don't really watch movies. I can't
Where
sit
the
down long
guy
enough.
lives through his life, and he's given scenes about whether or not It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh.
So It's a Wonderful Life. There's a scene where they have a run on the bank.
Oh.
Well, a run on the bank is when everybody goes, "Oh my gosh, there's something wrong with the bank. I need to go take my money out."
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you go down to your bank branch, they don't have everybody's money in cash
Right.
at the bank branch.
That's how banks work.
Yes. and at the same time, if you go, "Oh my gosh, I need to go get all my money out of the bank's going to fail." And then the next guy goes, "Oh, what? Amy's taking all of her money out? I need to go do that too."
It causes,
It causes
a problem.
a problem. Well, it's the same thing with gas.
Sure.
We had plenty of gas. People started thinking and hearing rumors and spreading rumors that there was a gas shortage. So most of us, run our gas tanks down to what, a quarter of a tank, or like me, I run it to empty until the light flashes at me, and yeah. So for some reason during the hurricane period, people who were miles and miles and miles away from the hurricane, hello phone,
Gotta love it when the phone
Yeah.
rings.
every single time. People who were a million miles away from the hurricane for some reason were getting gas like every day.
Right.
And so they were getting gas in more often than they normally would, and they were drawing down the supply more often than it normally should have drawn down.
Right. So what I read was from FEMA,
Mm-hmm.
who was addressing rumors in regards to the disaster. I actually posted it on our Facebook page for the city that the gas companies have gas and they supply gas to the stations based on their normal usage.
Right.
So all of a sudden, Walmart and Nacogdoches, when got it, like the bank scenario, people went, took all the gas out of the gas tanks. Well, they had the ability to bring us more, but they just didn't know that was going to happen. So
Right.
it kind of, I guess it's a perceived shortage.
Right. And then when you see, your husband tries to get gas at Walmart and he goes, "Oh my gosh, Walmart's out of gas. You need to go get gas now." And then you tell all your best friends and
Right.
you go get gas at,
That's
at
how the rumor mill works.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Well,
Rumor number 2
Okay.
that I heard that hurt my feelings
aw.
was that the city of Nacogdoches turned away evacuees and people that were in need.
Oh,
Yeah, that was awful.
Yeah.
Absolutely awful.
I don't even know where that would have come from.
I don't either. I think because the city initially didn't have a shelter open.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about the way shelters open in the state.
Yes.
The state of Texas has an emergency management command center, and it's kind of cool. And it deals with any type of emergency. When there were huge wildfires out in West Texas, or when there's a hurricane coming or floods, they stand up this emergency operations center. And they are in control of a large amount of emergency operations. And so when they are evacuating, when people are requested to evacuate from one city and they know that they need shelters, this state command center says, "Okay, all of you people from this city, drive to this city." You guys can't see where my hands are going, but I'm flailing my hands around as I explain this. They say drive from, for example, Port Arthur to Lufkin. And those people are supposed to drive from Port Arthur to Lufkin. And you can think about why is so that we have a control of people. We know that the route that they're told to take is
safe.
Open and safe and they
Sure.
can get there. And then we know that they actually have a bed for them when they get there. So if they tell all of Houston, you guys need to go to Nacogdoches, that obviously is not going to work because we don't have enough beds for all of the city of Houston.
Right.
So initially when this rumor started and people said, "Oh, Nacogdoches is turning people away," we had not been asked to open a shelter.
And we can't open without authorization.
Right. The city can't open shelters without authorization because we won't get refunded. So we're expending your tax dollars.
Right.
And we can't make that decision. The city can't make that decision to expend your tax dollars unless they're budgeted or unless we're commanded to by the state, knowing that we're going to be reimbursed for it.
Right. So let's back up. What happens is, and I learned this through experiencing it because I knew
in theory, but I didn't quite understand all the intricacies of how it would work.
Mm-hmm.
So the hurricane was about to hit. I called our emergency management folks and said, we're going to put a pin in this idea of a public information officer as well, because I want to talk about that in a minute. But I called, and I'm in everybody's business, and I said, when are we opening a shelter?
Mm-hmm.
No, not yet, because at one point, if you remember correctly, we didn't quite know the path of the hurricane.
Right.
And what they did not want to do was send people here, and then we experienced an unusual amount of rainfall as well, and now we've sent people from a devastated area into another disaster.
Right. Which is exactly what happened a few years ago, and I forget which one was the worst. Rita or Ike. I think it was Rita. Hurricane Rita. We had people on the highway from Houston who had evacuated, and they basically got stuck on the side of the road in Nacogdoches, and we had to open shelters here to get them off of the highway during the storm, and then Nacogdoches got hit by a hurricane, and we had shelters full of people with no power, and it was the middle of August, or early September, whatever it was, and it was awful. And so the state and the city does everything we can to try to avoid that outcome.
Yeah.
We want people to go to a place where they can drive there quickly, they can get out of their car, they can go be in a safe, sheltered place that has water and food and electricity.
Right.
And we weren't sure that they were going to be able to do that in Nacogdoches
at the time,
because we might have been hit by the hurricane.
Well, and as time goes on, we found out, okay, they're sending as many people because there were a huge number of people affected. And so to keep resources utilized appropriately, they said, send them, the idea is send the most people to the few locations as possible.
Right.
So we don't want to send you, at this point when they were looking at it, we don't want to send 1 million people, if you will, to Nacogdoches and have to split them up in between all these places and have to keep track of meals and food and resources. It would be nice to send, 300 cots to one place, 300 supplies for 300 people, have medical care for that many people in one place, and it's a huge process that will work if you let the process play out.
Right.
And so they sent them all to Dallas, up north. They were out of the line of fire, if you will, and
where they had huge shelters,
huge facilities to house more people, which means they got services quicker.
Right.
And it's so hard because and I think I posted this on my first personal Facebook. We live in such a giving community.
We do.
That people want to help, and that's wonderful. And I never ever want to minimize that's the sentiment, because that's so important. And we want, we talk all the time in this room about getting people involved. Well, that's in action.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that when we initialized what happened, and I know a lot of people read this on our Facebook page and in our press releases, but when it happened, we even still had a little bit of trouble because Jasper, where they had sent some people, they had a problem with their electricity, like you just kind of referenced.
Right.
We got to send them somewhere. Okay, Nacogdoches, now it's time to initialize your shelters.
Right.
What that means is now FEMA can come in, and any resources we expend, tax dollars, local tax dollars, will now be reimbursed.
Right.
So the city services that we provide are still upheld because we have that money now, and we'll get it back later because we've had to deal with a disaster.
Right. And in the meantime, we weren't, while Nacogdoches, the city of Nacogdoches wasn't accepting or hadn't been asked to open a shelter yet, the city was still providing support to our neighbors down south. We had sent firefighters through incident management teams. We had sent firefighters directly to work in Houston and Beaumont and Port Arthur and Rockport and Galveston. They were in the floodwaters rescuing people. They were in the floodwaters putting out fires.
Yeah.
They were loading evacuees onto planes to get them to Dallas. Like, they were working and they were helping. So we were there helping. You just might not have seen it.
Well,
and might not have heard about it.
And we couldn't always show, in the person in me who loves to tell these stories, I actually sent you a text and said, one of our firefighters had a picture, and I said, what are they doing? Because I couldn't tell.
Right.
And you said, well, they can't show the house that's being burned because the people have evacuated. They don't know their house has been on fire yet, and we've got to respect their confidential,
of course,
their privacy.
Of course.
And so we had a lot of cool stories that we really weren't allowed to tell. We can tell them maybe later.
Sure.
And we've got some stuff. I've got some stuff saved that we'll release, but it felt
as if we weren't doing anything.
Because we couldn't talk about
Because
it.
we couldn't talk about it. And not because it's a secret, but because the people being affected, we have to protect them.
Right.
We had a little issue, and with people, we don't want what we call rogue shelters.
Right.
So we don't want people saying, well, my church will open a shelter. And that didn't happen here.
No.
It really didn't. But, because what happens then is the Red Cross, who the city contracts with to be on call if something like this should happen, they have a certain number of supplies they get. It's all in this big greater plan.
Right.
And if we have these rogue shelters pop up, well, then now all of a sudden, who feeds them? There's this health safety.
They inevitably need things.
Of course they need things. And so probably it works. I mean, I would call the hotels. That was kind of not.
Sure.
And I know they were controlling it and trying to help people and get them things at the hotels. But you saw a lot of initiatives, which was wonderful, taking place that weren't, Red Cross certified meals, which is fine.
And that is amazing. And that's necessary. There's always going to be gaps that need to be filled. And we are so lucky to live in a place that have citizens that are so willing to step up and fill that gap and not expect to be reimbursed.
Right.
They just want to go help somebody and do the right thing. And so that's how we get through those kind of disasters.
Yeah.
Is people just step up and do the right thing.
It's been nice to see. I hate that we had to have a huge disaster like this to see it, but it is refreshing to go, you know what?
It's amazing.
People, there's more good than bad out there.
Absolutely. And it's cool because we, the city of Nacogdoches participates in TIFOS, which is the Texas Interagency Fire Mutual Aid System. Did I say that right?
Something
I think
like
there's
that.
lots of people that are going to be upset with me if I didn't say that correctly. I apologize if I didn't say that correctly, but it is TIFOS. And it's cool because we have people who work in the city of Nacogdoches Fire Department who are dispatched out to other areas, like they were dispatched out to Houston, to help in times of disaster. And those other agencies will come help Nacogdoches if we have a disaster. And so it's kind of neat because they see each other at different disasters, and they'll, the people out west who dealt with the horrible, or in the Panhandle, who dealt with the horrible wildfires this year, they may come to Nacogdoches and help us in a time of need because we've been there for them. And so that's, I think, so indicative of the spirit of the people of Texas, that we all help each other out.
Oh, that just gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, isn't that
I'm
cool?
not gonna lie.
We live in a great place.
I do want to say thank you to everybody because there were so many things that happened. We opened the Recreation Center shelter, and we opened the Expo Center shelter, and the county took a huge role in the Expo, and obviously the city in the rec center. And we had that place staffed 24/7. The city engineer went. One of our city engineers went and just wanted to help and worked overnight. I mean, it was amazing to see the number of people that really stepped up, and everybody was kind of waiting, are we going to open a shelter or are we not going to open a shelter? And so, and it happened. Our emergency management guy was not thinking it was going to happen, and then Jasper, if you didn't know, Jasper had an emergency at their shelter where they didn't have power, and they thought, okay, we've got to move these folks, everybody get ready, and we were ready, and we had been initialized already, and we're waiting in case they needed us, and they did. And so that was neat to see. And what happens then that I kind of wanted to touch base on was they open what we call the Emergency Operations Center. And so they send in, like you're talking about, these incident management teams that help manage the logistics. They help manage the shelter. And as long as there's people at that shelter, which there still are today.
Are there? Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
As of the day of this recording, which is the 12th, September 12th.
Sure. I know the population as of Friday was 62 at the shelter and going down, so that might have gone down overnight. I haven't heard. But to me, no news is good news. There's nothing crazy going on out there. Business as usual.
Right.
But they have people that are helping assist with all of the things that go into a shelter. It's not just open your doors. We've had local doctors out there. We've had ambulance teams from all over the state out there in case something happens.
Sure. And those people have animals.
Our animal shelters.
The animal shelter.
Yeah. We've got shelter employees at the Expo Center helping with the animals. It's just been cool to see. And
Absolutely.
so I'm glad we did this one.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're glad we could help because we know that they'll be there for us the next time we need help.
And then one more thing.
Okay.
Public information officers.
Yes.
So I'm a communication junkie, and I find it important to articulate that when there is an emergency, it is so very important, especially in the age of social media, to know what's going on. And we have what we call a PIO, Public Information Officer, who's Greg Sowell at the police department. And he was gracious enough to take me one day because I think it's interesting to go see the process of the Emergency Operations Center and how it happens. Because in a real disaster, they're constantly, like when our area is disaster stricken, they're constantly putting out weather updates and information that's official from the Office of Emergency Management. And so I will say thank you to all the people on our Facebook page that followed the official PIO posts, because every time you follow a resource like ours, and I'm toting our own success a little bit here, because I think 40,000 people saw our first post about the hurricane and its effect on Nacogdoches and what we were expecting, because then hopefully, like you said, they all go tell their friends, no, I saw on the City of Nacogdoches page, this is what's going on, and hopefully it helped to alleviate some concern, because you see these scary things happening, you think, oh, this is going to happen to us, oh my goodness. And I saw some chatter about, well, I heard it's going to happen here, everybody freak out. No. Take a breath. It's okay.
Right.
And so it is so important to go to a trusted resource.
So you're telling me I should listen to you and not like my Aunt Linda, who posts scary things from time to time. Yeah. Always listen to
know your source.
To the city.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I mean, it's good to have that trust.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So.
Right. No, I totally agree. And it's, if you follow the city only to get information in times of an emergency, it's
good
worth
enough
it.
For me.
It's absolutely worth it. Because we will put out the information you need when you need it.
10-4. All right. Well, I think that's all for us, everybody.
It's been a good one.
Thanks for listening to this episode of NacChat.